Hello. Today I'm joined by Sherri Divband. Is that the right way of saying it, Sherri? And Celine O'Donovan. We're going to talk about education, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Sherri, tell us your story because you know it better than I do.
I'll give you the elevator pitch now. So I am, I'm a jack of all trades. I've been doing a lot of different things, but I have really concentrated the beginning of my career with animals. So I'm a registered veterinary technician, which most people don't know what that is. It just means you're an animal nurse. I did that for about 20 years, worked in critical care, ICU, emergency, and then the zoo for about 10 years. And so I originally learned energy healing so I could work with the animals and help them in a more profound way. So that's why I even got into what I'm doing now is for them. And then I started having my own children. Well, I was having my children throughout the journey, and they slowly started opening me up to wanting to be more of a. I wanted to help more people than previously, because I was a little bit closed off in my early journey, not really wanting to work with people as much as the animals. So I was an only child and I loved animals, and all I wanted to do was animals, animals, animals. But then my children kind of, children have a way of opening up your heart and expanding the possibilities. And so I wanted to really help adults as well. So I started an energy healing practice while I was working at the zoo. And throughout that period of working with parents and doing hypnobirthing, I'm also a transpersonal master hypnotherapist. I started helping women have more calm, peaceful births, teaching self-hypnosis. And then I started working with their children as they started to grow up. And so it's this this natural progression. And so over time, I started working with children that were labeled autistic, Asperger's, behavioral, all sorts of things. I don't even like to use those labels because I don't believe in them. And I really started to look at them from an energetic perspective, and I started to understand their challenges and really what was going on with them, or what is going on with them, and they're being diagnosed incorrectly. And so I started working with them with energy healing and spiritual coaching and all sorts of things with the parents. And that kind of navigated over time into teaching classes. I always taught with adults different variations of like intuitive development, Reiki 1, 2, and 3, animal communication, animal Reiki, automatic writing. I mean, I teach a lot of different things. So I started teaching children. And so my vision was to create a spiritual center for children. And I did that. And I've told my story many times, but my daughter, she's 7 now. Her name is Aramis, and she came to me before I got pregnant, before I was even thinking about having another child. I always knew I wanted to have 3, but I thought I was going to have 3 boys. I never said this publicly before. I thought I was going to have 3 boys. And she came to me and she introduced herself and she said, "I'm coming into your life. I have a big journey ahead of me and I'm going to need your help." And I said, "Awesome, come in." And she came in about a year and a half later. And now, 7 years later, I really understand like what it was that she wanted me to help her with, because I thought it was a spiritual center for children, because I believe that the education system is doing a disservice to to children. I've thought that for many years, starting with my son, who's now 17. And they're not learning the appropriate skills that they need so that when they navigate through youth and adulthood, they don't have the correct tools to do that. So we have these behavioral disorders and all of these labels, but really, in reality, they're just not taught how to be human beings and how to navigate through emotions, and how to tap into their spiritual side. And they don't even understand what that is. And so I thought, we need this. We need to have these spiritual centers for children to have these awakenings, because we all come in with these skills. It's not learned, but we forget them or we close them off because we don't see other, children they go to their parents and they're not open to it, or they tell them to stop making things up, or they see that the other children in school aren't seeing fairies and angels around them. So they are like, "Oh, that must be weird. So let me stop doing that." They don't talk about it. And then come 6, 7 years old, they lose it temporarily. It never goes away, but it's shut off. And then a lot of adults have these reawakenings. And then those are the ones coming to me, asking me, "Can you help me figure this out? What does this mean? What am I seeing?" If we can reach the children from a young age and they never close it off, we would have more well-adjusted, balanced adults right now. And so my focus is helping adults navigate through their spiritual awakening right now and this ascension and what that means physically, emotionally, and mentally, and helping the children grow, navigate that from a young age. And so through this last couple of years, as we all know, with the online schooling, a lot of children have fallen behind. And when I went out publicly to speak about my idea of the spiritual center, I had hundreds of emails from parents all over the world. Sherri, are you going to open one in my area? I'm in Ireland. I'm in Australia. I'm in Canada. I'm in California. It literally exploded. And I thought to myself, gosh, do I want to take on the education system? That's a lot of, I'm not an educator necessarily. I've never worked in a school before. And I resisted initially. But as time went on, I slowly started to realize the need. And so I started virtual classes for children so that I could reach more children all over the world. And right now our virtual program is reaching children all over the world, are taking our classes, but we really need physical centers. And so now I'm launching the first physical location of Aramis Creative Learning Center, which will be in the United States. And our vision is to expand so that there's one in every state minimum, and all over the world internationally, as an alternative educational experience for children that is self-directed, organic, fluid. Children can contribute to their education. They can decide what it is they want to learn. It's a lot more 90% outdoor learning with animals, horse therapy, meditation, yoga, crystals, learning the things that I call life skills. What I call spiritual beginnings and life skills are the things that children should be focusing on. And then you sprinkle in some math, and you sprinkle in some science, and you sprinkle in the other subjects, but it's real life relatability. So the children truly understand, why am I learning this? Because, I've had to have those heart to hearts with my own children. They say, Mom, why do I have to learn this? And I look at them and I don't lie. And I say, you don't need to do this. This is just something that they make you do. And I have to deal with that with my children and talk them through it, which is why I'm trying to make a change. And they say, Mommy, I'm so excited about the schools you're creating, which we're also trying to change the language. So we're not using the word schools anymore. We've changed it to learning centers, because we know school is all about indoctrination and programming. So we're getting rid of all of that. We don't call our teachers teachers. They're called mentors. And so it's all about establishing a mutual, respectful relationship between mentors, the children, the parents, in a very humble, organic environment where children can thrive. And so we're targeting, the ages of 4 all the way to 22, because I also believe the universities are going to go bye-bye. And I think we're going to navigate more towards trade schools. And so we are planning to partner up with organizations. Who knows what's going to be around after the fall of all of this stuff, but let's just say Starlink or something like that. And then if the children really, as they grow older and they really start to navigate towards their passion, then they don't have to take other subjects. They really focus on what it is that they enjoy learning. And then we try to partner up with organizations, and then they can have internships and apprenticeships, so that is their college. And then they work towards getting a job potentially with that organization or similar companies. So this is, like, in my vision, that started as a spiritual center has turned into like a one-stop shop for our children as an alternative. Now, I'm not trying to take over the education. A lot of people get really upset and sensitive about what I'm saying. And I'm like, listen, this is an option. We just need options. We don't need a uniform education system that our children have to go to. And if you don't have a thousands of dollars extra in your bank account that they could go to these elite private schools, what else do they have? What other opportunities are available to them? I'm trying to fill in that gap there and provide a really incredible, in my opinion, opportunity for children. So there's so much more to it. That's kind of the abbreviated version of it. But as you can see, I'm very passionate about what it is that I'm doing. And there's so many elements to it.
Sherri,
wow.
that is amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah.
I mean, so, Celine, I met Celine in Doolin about 6 weeks ago, and you mentioned this to me, and I was like, oh, she sounds amazing. Got to speak to her. Because there's somebody in Ireland trying to work with you. Is that right?
There are a few. I have contacts all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have some in Ireland, do you?
I have, yes, a woman in connective what's it called? Connected Consciousness. She's
Yeah.
in that group. And I've worked with a few people in Ireland. I have partners in Australia. Carly and Julia have come onto my team. I have partners in Canada. I mean, all over the world. Because, this is not Sherri Divband's project. I'm not trying to get famous and rich off of this. This is a collaboration. Like I have said in many interviews, I need help. So if you are a parent, if you are a teacher, if you are just somebody wanting to help, like we can build this thing together, because that's what the Ascension is about. It's about collaboration, building bridges. There's no competition. I tell people, hey, if you want to do this on your own, like I see the education system changing and the opportunities. So I'm not saying that Sherri is going to take over and everyone needs to come on board with what I'm creating. There are many opportunities for communities to do their own thing. And I think that's the point. The point is that universal education is no longer suitable for our needs as we move forward in humanity. We need to have parents and children do what's best for them. And that's unique and different, no matter what community, what state, what country you live in, how old you are, your demographic, none of that matters. It's really about, what does my child need? And if you can find other parents in your community that you can build something on your own, that's great. And then with what I'm creating, and in 10 years, we could have a completely different experience for our children. And that's really what it's about. So even if I can inspire people watching this to say, you know what, I've had enough. Let me reach out to some of the other parents in my community, and they start pods, they're calling them pods. They're popping up everywhere, and they're meeting in community centers and churches and in people's homes. You have to start somewhere. That's why for the last year, I've done strictly virtual classes so that I could reach a larger demographic, so I could show people my vision. These are the types of classes I would like to teach in person, but let me show you now. And we have 20 teachers, mentors, and we have subjects that are just all over, from music to art to spiritual based classes, mindfulness, navigating emotions. I teach children Reiki. And in all sorts of classes, we call Cosmo classes, philosophy classes, science. And we do have math, but we call it mindful math. So we're making it fun for the children. We want children to enjoy learning, right? So they play and they learn.
Well, there's a lot to talk about here, but the first thing I'm going to do is share your website with everybody, which is here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is aramiscreativelearning.com. And anybody watching this that wants to help, where do they go on here, Sherri?
To help donate. For donations, it's on the donations tab.
There you go. Okay, cool. This is just music to my ears. And when I first started this channel, I've just typed in quantum education system to YouTube, and you'll find the video that I did right at the top of YouTube, which is cool. Because I realized school for me was, I did what I had to do because I wanted to get into military. So I had to get these certificates, right? And then I never liked it, never enjoyed it. It was rubbish, but did it. I was very brainwashed and everything else. And 30 years trying to undo most of the stuff that they did to me. And when I've got 5 children. When I had those, I realized things were really wrong, so wrong. I mean, I used to have massive arguments with the head teachers, the principals of the schools. I still do, but back in England in the 2000s, one of my kids came home and showed me the food pyramid that they'd been given, and it was like white bread was above eggs, and I was like, what's going on here? And then they were getting excluded because we had this very organic food thing going on with the kids when they were young, and they had just an organic box of food for lunch, but because they had boiled eggs in there, they got excluded from the other kids because somebody was slightly allergic to eggs. And I had to go in and have an argument with them because I said, all these other kids are eating chocolate, full of processed eggs. What are you talking about? And even my eldest son last year, because of this, was getting depressed at the school that he was at in Ireland, because between England and Ireland, I set up 2 homeschool systems in Morocco, trying to unschool them. But even then we were getting bogged down with curriculums and things like that, even though we had outdoory, you know, it was a really beautiful place to do it, and it was a totally different system to what they've come to here. And when I came here, it's just been hell. The schools are awful in this country, beyond awful. They're like prisons. They're just shocking. But I said to my eldest son last year, I said, I'd pick him up, and I said, what did you do today? And he said, well, you know, we did economics, and they told us about inflation. And I said, and I was like, all of that's bullshit. You're just learning a load of bullshit to get a certificate to do what? Do you want a job? And he said, not really. And I said, well, why are you doing it? What do you want to do? He said, I want to travel, sail the world. It's where you need to go and learn to be a sailor then, and follow that passion. And he's never been happier. And he left school, and everyone's like, what are you doing leaving school? You won't get your leaving cert. And I was like, listen, son, I've employed 300 people in my time, and I've never once asked to see anybody's certificate of education, because it's nothing, who cares, you know? And it started with me really waking up when Ken Robinson's talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? That's, anybody watching this that just wants a little bit of a wake-up call, that's a great stepping stone towards what Sherri's doing. But what you're doing is mind-blowing, Sherri, and it's God's work. And I understand, I fully get when you said that Aramis came to you before she was born and gave you this mission. It's just wonderful. It's just so amazing. I don't know. I say I'm lost for words. I've just waffled for 10 minutes. And thank you for Celine for
well, just even just to mention, Sherri, how I think I came. Yeah, it was about last year I came across you. I think you were on. Well, you've been on so many different shows, John Claude's, Michael Jaco, and I can just remember, I mentioned that to you. I worked in the university here in Ireland for 10 years, and I was just so burnt out and frustrated. I traveled to all the schools, and really I was a sales rep for the university, just trying to get students in. It wasn't about what they needed. And as the time went on, I loved working with young people, and I got a message, I think, quite young. Like when I listened to you first, I literally nearly cried. I was like, this is exactly what I would have wanted as a child, because I can remember being that open. You actually reminded me, I've been very open. I felt an awful lot when I was young. I used to channel a lot of stuff, and then I shut it down. And I heard you talk about that in an interview. I was really interested in it, about how, you know, when we're not seen, I suppose, by adults, like you said, we disassociate. And I sort of think I've heard you talk. I'd love to hear you just talk a little bit more about that, how we, and I see that around me in so many people and in so many children. Like I've two very sensitive nephews, and one of them now is 14, and I'm very close to him, but it's very frustrating because he's very creative, he's very intelligent, like you describe, and he wanted a diagnosis because he just felt he couldn't fit in. And I did my best to try and support him, but he got a diagnosis, a label of high functioning Asperger's, and it's just so hard to see. But what I struggle as well with is the language. When you have parents who are not awake, like I know you talk about maybe parents coming to you where they recognize this with their children, but I came across an awful lot of children, and still do, and adults, and they're not getting the support, and you're trying to sort of say, I see you. So I suppose that's where, when I listened to you, I said, this is, I've always felt a calling to work with young people and children. I don't have children of my own, but I feel I was sent to serve children on earth. I just feel it very strongly. That's my job in whatever way. So when I listened to you, I went, this is it, because I'd given up on supporting children. Not given up, but I couldn't find my place to do it. So yeah, it's just amazing. But I'd love, if you wouldn't mind, just to talk a little bit. I heard you before. I think it's really important for people to hear about the whole disassociation and what happens to us when we're young often.
Yeah, disassociation is a huge thing, and it's happening with adults right now. I mean, it's happening across the board. It's like I feel torn because I want to help the adults so much because they're really struggling, and the parents, but then also the children. And it's like, which, you know, I'm trying to going back and forth because they're both equally important. But the disassociation is about, you know, we have a lot of evolved beings. They're not children. These beings are coming into the planet. That is not a question. I don't think anyone's arguing that anymore. They've been coming in for thousands of years, really, but in large quantities within the last 150 years, because we're working towards this ascension period. This is a really incredible period that we're walking into right now. And a lot of evolved souls have come into this planet to help us with that. And I have the honor of working with these children, but when I communicate with their higher self, because that's how when I do sessions with children, I actually I talk to them, but then I talk to their higher self, and they tell me who they are, where they're from, what their journey is. A lot of them, I would say a good 70% of the children on the planet right now that are born after 2012 are first timers here. But that doesn't mean that they're not evolved. That means they're extremely evolved. In fact, 7th, 9th, 10th, 11th density beings coming in here that are, Asperger's is an honor, by the way. That means that you're highly intelligent. You are so smart. You just don't fit into this world. And we need to stop labeling, because what that does is it's teaching our children to be that they're different. And that is an honor, and our unique qualities is what makes us important and it distinguishes us in a beautiful way. We shouldn't all be uniform. That's the design of the sheeple, is in the programming in school. Fit in this little box. You need to learn in this category, in this time frame, in this age group, this demographic. Listen to what you're told. Speak, only speak up when you're spoken to. Stand in line. Listen. Shut up. And so that's why we have so many adults that are just like completely hypnotized, because they just followed what they were told. No fault of their own. They really just got, even Mark said, I was asleep. Everybody is at some point. A lot of people are at some point. And so these children are coming in and they're dynamic and they're different, and they learn differently. Some of them are coming in for the first time. They don't want to speak. We have a lot of autistic children that are nonverbal. I speak to them and they say, listen, I understand everything you guys are saying, but I don't have anything to say yet. They're observing, they're listening to our communication because they're more nonverbal. They listen to subtle cues, they feel energy, and they're actually trying to teach us that we should be doing the same thing. Our language, our verbal language is very limiting. And so when we speak to each other, and everybody has had this moment where they're like, God, I can't think of the word to describe what I'm feeling, because there are no words. It's a frequency, and we need feel it. So when I'm in Mark's presence or your presence, and we're communicating on an energetic level as well. And there are no words to fill in a lot of that. This is a frequency, it's an energy. And these children are trying to take the adults' focus off the words and the language and just feel for a moment, feel with the heart. And that's what they're trying to show us. So we need to stop putting our nonverbal children in speech therapy, and the Asperger, stop separating them out and saying they have behavioral issues and they won't listen to their teacher, or they're rude because they speak their mind. They're speaking their truth. They don't know any other way. They don't understand how they're lacking a little bit of our social skills that we have been programmed to believe that that's the only way. And so they come across rude because they speak their truth. It's just, that's there, and it comes out. And then we have the autistic children that won't look at people in the eyes. Well, that's because perhaps they don't like the energy that you're giving off, and it's scary. I've had many autistic children say they see people's demons. They do not want to look at people because they see beyond the person. And it's scary for them. It's overwhelming. And so once I started learning all of this, I was like, oh my God, everybody needs to know this. They're misunderstood, and they're being misdiagnosed. And then unfortunately, they're being separated from their peers. So there's that separation. Now something is wrong with me. I'm not normal. And then the parents are feeling defeated. They don't know what to do. And then they're medicated. And then what happens when you medicate them is their vibration goes from up here all the way down here. They lose their sense of self. Then they really do dissociate, and they become numb, and they become a shell of themselves, and they don't want to eat, and they're robots walking around. And yes, they're controllable by the teachers, but at what cost? You've just deactivated their essence, their life force energy. It's an absolute shame. And so a lot of children, and especially with parents, and again, I feel for these parents because they don't know any better. They don't know how to handle them. And so these children basically they just shut off. So they don't necessarily need the medication to shut them off. Some of them just do. And when we have our soul up here that sends the life force energy to the physical body, if the soul and the physical body aren't balanced and in a state where it feels safe, the soul can disassociate. It can disconnect temporarily. Especially, this happens a lot with trauma. So the first time a lot of children experience this is if they go through some sort of traumatic experience. Perhaps they're being abused by their parent, or even just a situation that's very scary for them. They will disconnect because they don't like, the soul's like, oh, I don't like the way this feels. I'm going to come out of here. And then their body is experiencing it, but they're not truly there. They're not consciously there. And they learn that when they can do that, and then they start doing it more and more in other situations where maybe they're in the classroom and they're uncomfortable, or maybe they're getting bullied at school, or whatever the situation, they learn to disconnect. And then the problem is, if they do that too many times, then their parents start to lose them, and they say, I've lost my child. I don't know where she or he is. They're not acting the same. They're depressed, and because they're not there, their life force energy is so minimal that they appear to be depressed and lonely and sad. And they just need to be pulled back in. But then they don't do that because they don't feel safe. They don't feel accepted. They don't feel wanted. They don't feel confident. And so all of this can be corrected if we just have children in atmospheres where they are not separated and made to feel like they need to be in a box. We need to take the box away and allow children to interact and let them just be who they are. And that's why we need mentors that are in their own evolutionary consciousness, their own spiritual journey, where they can allow them to do that, where they can be patient and let the children take charge. Maybe let them teach a little bit. And sit back and let them take the lead. Let them, if there's a child in the back of the room that can't sit still, well, we put a swing back there. Let them swing while the teacher's talking. They shouldn't be sitting still for 8 hours. I'm sorry. In a fluorescent room, just constant, like learning this, like it's too much. They need to have breaks. They need to be outside. They need to be out in the field painting with horses. They need to be reading to the cows. They need to be out gardening, putting their hands in the soil. They need to connect with the earth and the nature. The dark side has done such a great job. I'll give them credit of disconnecting humans from the earth. And we need to take that. We need to take our power back. And it starts with the adults. It really does. And that's why I'm putting my foot down and I'm saying that's enough. And I'm not just doing this for my children. I'm trying to do this. That's the whole point. I could easily take my children home and put them in a little bubble and make sure that they have everything they need. But how's that going to help them when they grow up into a society where it's not conducive of that? Like, we need on a large scale to create a change. We are the change. You're the change. You're the change. Everyone watching this, if we all band together, we can create opportunities for our children to thrive and not feel so different.
Yeah. There's definitely no need for words after listening to you. It's just, wow.
I mean, I could go on forever. There's so many elements to this. There really is. And, and it's about the animal component is a big one. And I'm really and I'll tell you, this is really funny, not funny, but because I'm an animal person, I've been working with the animal kingdom long before I even had children, long before I did any of this. Remember, the animals were my life, they were my passion. So I've been communicating with the animal kingdom. They've helped me, and I've learned so much from them throughout my journey. And it was about a year ago that horses started coming to me. I'm an elephant girl. I love elephants. I love elephants and lions. So obviously I have a connection to Africa. But
or Lyra. Or Lyra.
Yes, exactly. But I've worked with horses, and I love and respect horses. I respect all animals, but for some reason the horses kept coming to me about a year ago through children. So I would do a session with a child, and they'd have a horse come through, and they started coming to me, and so many, and they were trying to get my attention, and they said, Sherri, because my understanding, or what I've been told, is that the horses are the guardians of the land. The dolphins and the whales are the guardians of the sea, of this planet. They are connected to Mother Gaia, and they are here to nurture, to guide, to protect us. And they're very spiritual beings, and they're very connected to Earth, but they're also very connected to humans, and they want to help. So they kept coming to me, and they said, Sherri, the horses want to help. The horses want to help. Okay, what does that mean? And then I started getting it, because sometimes I could be a little slow. And I started getting more and more information, and they said, the horses are ready. The horses are ready. They want to help the children. Let us in with the children. And I said, okay, well, we could have, because obviously animals was a big part of my vision. Yeah, we're going to have horses. No, don't worry. We're going to have horses in the center. The children were, no, Sherri, you're not listening to us. And I'm like, okay. We need to be front and center. We need to be the focal point. We need the children out. Let us be around, because horses have a very profound energy body, and they pulsate through their hearts, and they can generate an electromagnetic vibrational energy that is profound, healing. They could, one horse could heal 15, 20 children, just being in their presence, just daily being in their presence. And I said, oh, I get it. Okay, so we have the children work with the horses every single day, care for the horses, feed with the horses, read to the horses, learn with the horses. They could be doing math out in the fields with the horses. Like, they want to be front and center. There you go. They want to be front and center. They said, let us help you. We want to help. And I said, all right, let's do this. So then I shifted my whole focus about 3 months ago to, okay, we need to get the children, because what they're saying is it's much more profound than just learning. We need to reestablish the animal and human bond. That has been another thing that they have taken away from us. They disconnected us from the earth, and they have disconnected us from the animal human bond, which is quite important. They're not just here for our food. That's not why they're here. And a lot of animals came to me years ago and said, the reason we've left the planet, those species that have gone extinct, is their oversoul chose to leave. They said, I'm out of here. I'm tired of this. I don't want to be in this density anymore. And they've left, but they told me, and whispered in my ear, don't worry, we're going to come back. And I was like, I can't tell people that. They're going to think Sherri's insane, this crazy woman. What's she talking about? But I believe it now. I'm like, gosh, they are going to come back, because they know things are changing. They just stepped out for a while, but the animals are coming back, and they want us to teach the children, because the children get it right away. How significant they are in our ecosystem, and they have just as much right to be here as we do, and they're quite evolved, in a lot of cases more evolved than we are, and they are our biggest teachers. And the horses have volunteered to be the ones to guide us, and I think that that's incredible. So the animal component of what I'm creating is equally important to the process of learning. So we have the Aramis stages of learning, we have the Aramis initiative, and we have the Aramis philosophy. So I encourage people to go on the website and read about all of those, because they're very unique to the information that when I've come up with this idea through Aramis, but also the collection of children that I worked with all over the years, over the past 3 years, specifically with the children, that this idea has come to fruition. So I'm not taking credit. This is not Sherri's beautiful idea. This is an idea that came to me that I believe the collective consciousness has brought to me. And Aramis, my daughter, was just the catalyst. But this is much bigger than what I am speaking of. It's who knows where it's going to go. Yeah, there are the different phases. We have the Aramis philosophy, the Aramis initiative, the Aramis stages of learning. There's a lot to it.
And haven't you the Aramis collective? Are there 3 after your 3 children? Are those the new nonprofit?
Yeah, I do have, and I also have a cartoon. So I started animated cartoon videos about a year ago. I had this idea that I said, if we can't get the children to learn these, if they're not teaching these children what I believe they should be learning in school, well, I'm just going to teach them through cartoons instead of me just going on and talking. They don't want to look at me. So I created a cartoon called Divinely Guided Children. And the characters are Aramis, Skylar, and Jordan, which are named after my 3 children, and then Vivian, which is my grandmother. And it's centered around Aramis, who's reading a book, and every cartoon or every video has a theme, and they learn about different things: spirit guides, angels, energy, mindful breathing. There's 11 of them. The 12th one is in production now. Then we have the books that correlate to the video. So the idea is that they get to hear about topics that they should be learning in school. And then hopefully they go home and they talk to their parents about it. And now there's books to go with it. So now they can hold it and read it and get to know Aramis, Skylar, and Jordan. We also have, if you go to the top, there's the Aramis Collective. We also right there. I'm sorry, you're exactly where you need to be. I'm sorry, right there. We started a nonprofit called the Aramis Collective, because again, this is a collective. This is something huge that we're creating. And we have 3 components to the Aramis Collective, which is the nonprofit. One is the Aramis Creative Learning Center, which is what we've been talking about. Sky Universal is named after my son, Skylar. And we're about to launch. This is huge. And I know people are iffy about the virtual reality, but I'm telling you, when done in a safe way, virtual reality could be a very expansive experience for children to go to be able to do things they wouldn't normally be able to do. Go to have a virtual immersive experience and go to the moon, go to the cosmos, go to the Serengeti field trips.
My son's going to love you because he just asked for a virtual headset for his birthday, and I said no, I don't agree with that. Now I've got to go and get one.
Well, you know what, Mark? Let's have an honest conversation about this, because I have resisted. I don't like any of that. And my husband is really big in it. My son Skylar really loves it. And I said, I don't want that. I want children to be outside, and I don't like the technology. But I've had some talks with my husband, and they've convinced me that this can be a small aspect of it. It doesn't need to take over. And this truly can be an opportunity for children to have an experience that they wouldn't normally be able to have. So I'm on board with that, but trust me, I'm very watching it very closely to make sure it stays within the parameters of my vision. So that's
I totally agree, because all I ever wanted to do was fly, and when I couldn't fly, I went to a flight simulator, and
exactly.
you know, and that was nearly as good.
Yeah, and these children can ride rovers on Mars, and they can get in spaceships, and they can have animals in their world, and they can feed them and care for them and learn animal science and visit the dinosaurs. So there's a lot of good involved in that. So that'll be launched later this year. And then Jordan, named after my son Jordan Media and Publications is the cartoons. I'm working on getting a documentary done. So if anyone watching this does documentaries, I am looking for someone to help me put a documentary together.
Well, I have a team of documentary.
Okay, yeah, that's our next project. I want to do a documentary because this needs to be out. People need to see, not just hear Sherri speak, but like we need to put together a documentary on what we call New Earth children, whatever we want to call them.
Have you spoken to Nick Alvear?
I did. I haven't heard back.
Okay, I'll message him.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are the three components of the collective, which is the nonprofit portion of it. We are doing a fundraiser tonight on Jean-Claude's show with Janine, Tarot by Janine, and Julie, who's an amazing astrologer, and we're doing a fundraiser to raise money tonight. So I encourage anybody to join that. It'll be a lot of fun. We're giving away a lot of prizes, so to encourage people to donate.
What time is that? Sherri, what time is that?
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm going to make sure I get this video up in time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I didn't think about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Amazing. This is one of the best shows I've ever done. I'm one of the easiest because I could just sit and listen to it.
Well, thank you. Well, what other questions? I mean, we could talk about, we could take this in so many different directions, honestly.
Well, I think it's, you know, well, after you.
No. Go on, you go ahead, Mark.
You're the co-host today.
No. No, I'm really thinking back because when I listed so many things, I had to write down a few things because you were talking. I just feel, you know, even when you were saying there, even right now, like, what would you suggest, say, for people or children who are, as you said, disassociated, disconnected? What are the things that everyday people like watching, like me, can do in a way to start supporting children who are feeling, who we can see are very disconnected? Like, I find that now I know children around me and I'm doing my best to sort of see them and knowing, you know, where I was, but sometimes it's hard to find the language because they're, as you said, they're like, I was disconnected for years, and it was only when I had breast cancer in 2016, that was my big sort of start of an awakening where I flopped back into my body and came back and started that journey. So it's, yeah, what sort of things even would you suggest we can be doing on a daily basis?
Good question. You know, step one is letting your children know that you understand them and they are okay the way they are. They don't need to change. That's step one, because a lot of them are feeling insufficient, insecure, and something is wrong with them. And we need to stop right now and let them know you're beautiful the way you are, inside and out, not just by looks, but just your personality. You are the way you are for a reason. And thank you for coming in. Thank you for contributing to this world. Thank you for choosing me as your mom, or thank you for choosing me as your dad, or whatever, grandparent, whatever you are to them. And that's number one, building them up and letting them know they are okay the way they are. And then it's all about the disassociation part of it. Aspect is they need to feel that they are connecting somehow. So this is different for every child that I've worked with, but some of them, they need to find something that pulls them back in. So I've worked with a lot of autistic children that really loved when their parents take them out on trails and walks in nature. It's the only time that their parents say that they feel themselves. And so we're like, whatever you can find that they enjoy doing, it's about grounding. When they're disassociated, they're not grounded. That's the whole point. So you need to bring them back in. How can we ground them? And not everybody likes to be outside on walks. So some of them enjoy art, let them channel their energy and their creative energy by creation, crafting, building. Some of them are very analytical. Give them something to do. I had a recommendation for a woman whose child is very advanced and kept trying to take apart the vacuum cleaner and a bunch of other things in the house. And she was getting upset. I said, he needs something to do. Go to Goodwill, buy a bunch of stuff that you don't care that they take apart, make a little workshop for him and let him have at it. And then let him build something out. And she said it was life-changing. He was a completely different child a week later. Wow. She said, thank you so much. It's just all about figuring out who your child is, what they like, and then catering to that and giving them more of that. And so it's the art, it's the analytical ones, the thinkers. They need something to do. Some of them actually enjoy math. I'm not knocking math. I hate math. I'm terrible at it. But some people love to sit down and just do math. Okay, so give them something to do. Not give them something to do, but give them something to do that they enjoy. So the idea is grounding them by making them feel safe, giving them activities that they actually enjoy, and so that they feel more comfortable in their skin and who they are. It's a process. So it's not an overnight thing. There's a lot of trial and error involved. That's why the answer is not universal, because different things work for different children that I've worked at. And I've worked with 5-year-olds with this all the way to, in their 20s, the young adults that are trying to figure it out. And I will say that the most challenged age group right now, and I talk about this in my book, and I've talked about this in many interviews, are the children between the ages of about 15 to mid-20s. And the reason for that is they are the way showers, the pioneers. They're the ones that are about to graduate high school or have just graduated, and they have no idea what they want to do. There is no college subject that they're interested in. They don't even want to go to college. And their parents are deeming them lazy. They just sit in the basement, play video games. They have no direction, no drive, no motivation. And I want to tell you something. These children are not lazy. They're not unmotivated. They're not any of that. What's the issue is that they've come here and volunteered to come in this. We're in this in-between phase, right? So we have the old paradigms breaking down slowly, and now fast, more quickly. And then we have the new paradigms that need to be built up. And these children are right in the middle. So they come in between two worlds, and they're the way showers, the pioneers. So a lot of the things that they're meant to do don't exist yet. I can't tell you how many sessions I've had, and I'm like, gosh, I don't even know what this is, but I see you doing something like this. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that was an option. And I'm like, because it isn't yet, but it will be. So these children are going to get to a point where they're the entrepreneurs. They're the ones that are going to create something new, because as the workforce shifts and we're not in the rat race anymore, and everything is on money, and how much things we have, and who has the biggest house, and who has the nicest clothes. Like, who cares about any of that? Once all of that goes away, and people can really just sit and say, what am I passionate about? What is it, like Mark's son? What is it that I want to do? Right? It was your son, you said, was.
Yeah, but as you're talking, I was like, I'm taking my daughter for a flying lesson this weekend because she wants to learn to fly. She's only 14. And I'm like, why not? And why not? That's what you want to do. Let's do it. And it's, when I saw the masks being implemented to the younger kids in this country, I could not believe how many parents just let it happen. I just couldn't believe it, and I'm the crazy one, because I wrote to the teachers and said, what are you doing? And, sometimes one of my boys comes back and says the teacher calls the kids names, shouts at them and calls them idiots and things like that. I'm like, these guys are just, it's pure, it's not just bad. It's pure abuse.
It's abuse. It is.
It's total abuse.
It's abuse. And when I put out advertisements for my teachers, mentors that I'm hiring, I don't care about your degrees or your certifications. I want the moms and the grandmoms and the new teachers that are like, this is what I want to do it because I want to help children. Or the teachers that are fed up with the system and say, this is not what I signed up for. All of those are the people that I'm looking for. When I do interviews, I am, they don't know this, but I am connecting energetically, and I can tell if they're sincere, if they're genuine, all from energy. That's how I can tell what their focus is going to be, and if they're going to be able to carry forward the vision that I have, or that we have as a collective. These pieces of paper, they don't mean anything. The degree that I have on my wall in my office that's displayed, like, who cares? Like, like, it doesn't mean anything. I've never used it once. Like, it's all about what's in here and our passion, and how we want to contribute. And do you love children? Are you okay if you let the child take over your class? Are you okay if you have a child in the back swinging? Are you okay if people are moving around, if they're moving around? Are you okay teaching outside? Are you okay? All of these things matter to me. That's what I care about, not the piece of paper that they have a certification. That's what we should be focusing on. And to be honest, I think all jobs should be that way, regardless of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Now, I understand some things might need some sort of a certification. I'm not naive. Okay, so your daughter might want to get her pilot's license. Yeah. I'm sure they need to have some sort of a certification for safety. I understand that, but in the large scheme of things, with the world, where the world is going, a lot of things don't need that. And it's all about preparation and what you've done up until that point. Maybe my life experience is more valuable than someone's education, because I've actually lived it. I've had trial and error. I've learned lessons, versus someone coming out of school that, okay, they have a lot of knowledge in here, but they've never done anything.
Well, I'd like to be an entrepreneurial mentor for your thing.
Absolutely. That's
or poetry or literature. I think it's just wonderful to hear this, and you're actually doing it. And this is what I'm loving about coming through where we've just been, because I'm seeing these green shoots all over the world, and it's all people powered, and it's all spiritual, and it's all divine. And it's just, the purpose really for this video, as far as I'm concerned, is just to let all of my audience know about you and what you're doing, and make sure everybody goes to your website. I just signed up to the email list, and I'm going to donate now. And I'm gonna wind this up now so that I can get it up in time for your fundraiser on John Claude's and Janine's show, because that'll be big, right? That's fantastic. I can't thank you enough, Celine, for introducing me to Sherri. Sherri, what you're doing is just amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And whatever help you need or support, or it's just my passion. When I heard what you're doing, said in any way that I can be involved, I'd absolutely love it. If you were looking for sites, I was just saying to Mark, over Christmas I was away in the countryside, and I was doing a bit of writing, and I was walking down the road, and I kept being told just to stop at this field, and I kept just turning, looking at the field, going, I can see exactly what will be there. And it was like one of your centers. I could just see it. And I think it was I just started listening to you, but it was like, and then everything happened so fast, when, like, as you said, I heard you talking again recently about, what do you want to create? We're also focused on what I don't want and getting out. And I sort of get the sense that the more we focus on what we want to create, that's what it comes up as we take our energy away from what we don't want and what's collapsing. It'll just happen, isn't it? It's not that we have to be fighting that. And I've noticed everything now is happening very quickly, even reaching out to you and how quickly you came back. I was like, oh my God, that's fast. So
it's all about movement. Yeah. It's all about shifting your intentions and your focus. And I've been saying this for a year. Stop watching all of this stuff. People get so immersed, like they got to watch every single podcast. And I'm not saying not to do that, but like, what else are you doing with your energy and your time? You say you're complaining and you want to make change. Well, pick something and do it. You want to work with veterans, you want to work with animals, you want to do whatever it is that you want to do. We have to envision and manifest right now. This is a time for creation. This is what the Aquarian age is about. This is what 2022 is about. It's about shifting our focus. If everybody focused on, okay, what is the world that I'd like to create? How do I envision it? It may not all align and match, but if your focus is for the highest good of humanity, it will. It absolutely will, and it will manifest in such a way. And unfortunately, we're in this money system still. And if I could slap my hands, if I could snap my fingers I would have Aramis centers all over the world, but unfortunately, it's all about money right now. Money, money,
Yeah.
which is why I'm doing a fundraiser. I would love to be in Ireland right now. I would love to have 50 locations open. The only thing stopping us, and unfortunately, and this is just the world how it's been working, is the money aspect. If I had millions of dollars, I would have done this by now. But you know, I don't make that much money, and you know, I have 3 children. Mark has 5 children. There's only so much you can do. But if imagine, this is important. This is for our children. If society really cared, everybody would be like, Sherri has such a great idea. Let's do this. And then it's suddenly it's funded, and now they're popping up everywhere at the exact same time. That's the world that I envision, and that's the world I feel like we should be in. It should be about the children, not about the money, because I want this to be a free education. This is not an elusive, you know, only the elite wealthy people get. But unfortunately, it's very limited right now because everything is about money, money, money. So everyone's like, oh, have you looked at it to investors? Well, you know what? All investors care about is how much money are you going to make and when am I going to get my money back? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't care about that. I just want the center up. Like, can't you just donate? Like, don't you have money that you just want to, you know what I mean? Like, and you can see where people look at me and they're like, Sherri, you're so naive. And I'm like, am I naive or am I a pioneer? Am I thinking the way we should be thinking?
Yes, you are. You are. 100%.
So,
100% amazing. Everybody watching, go to the websites and donate. AramisCreativeLearning.com and the AramisCollective.com. Thank you, Celine, and thank you very much, Sherri. Absolute pleasure to meet you. Hope to meet you properly one day and come to this center. And best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
everybody for watching.
Thanks, Sherri.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.